center for coal mining and railroads. For the war effort, the U.S. needed tremendous amounts of coal, a major energy source at the time, and freight trains were the main means of hauling coal and the steel needed to build tanks and airplanes. Joe Biden Sr. did well at his uncle's Sheen Armor Company. They sent him to Boston to head up a branch, and the Bidens lived in a 4-bedroom colonial house in the suburbs. In 1944, Joey's sister Valerie was born. On weekends and holidays, Joe flew his young family back to Scranton to be with the relatives. Airplane travel was too pricey for most people in those days, but not for the Bidens. After World War II ended in 1945, the demand for Sheen Armor Company's products dried up. However, Joe Sr. had saved enough money to open a furniture store with a friend. Unfortunately, the friend took the money for the store and ran off. To Gene Biden's dismay, Joe refused to hunt down his thieving partner and press charges because he'd been a friend. Joe Sr. had a little money left, and he went in with another partner to start a crop dusting company. They bought an airfield on Long Island, New York, and the Bidens moved there to live. But before long, that business failed too. In 1948, Jean Biden took Joey and Valerie and moved back to Scranton to her parents. Joe gave up and followed soon afterward. Returning to Scranton was the practical thing for the Bidens to do, but it was a big come-down for Joe Sr. to live off his in-laws. He had to take any job he could get. Jean's brothers couldn't resist rubbing it in a bit, making smart remarks about Joe's upper-class manners. Edward Blewett Finnegan, who stuttered sarcastically, called Joe Sr. Lord Joseph. Years later, Joe Biden Jr. would realize how humbling the return to Scranton had been for his father. But at the time, 5-year-old Joey was perfectly happy to move in with his grandparents and his uncle Edward Blewett. Joey and Valerie loved their uncle, who was kind to the children. They didn't care that everyone called him Boo-Boo because of the way he pronounced Blewett. The Finnegan household also included Joey's great-aunt, Gertie Blewett, his grandmother's sister. They all lived in a 2-story shingled house at 2446 North Washington Avenue in the Greenridge neighborhood. Greenridge was at the end of the electric streetcar line that ran from downtown Scranton. The neighbors were mostly working-class families of Irish descent, like the Finnegans. The families in Greenridge were mostly Catholic, too, with immigrant roots. Their parents and grandparents had left Poland or Ireland or Italy and came to Pennsylvania to work in the anthracite coal mines. Priests and nuns were a familiar sight on the street, and the children always greeted them respectfully. "Good afternoon, Father." "Good afternoon, Sister." It was taken for granted that Joey would go to a Roman Catholic school, like the other children in his neighborhood, so he started school at St. Paul's. Joey quickly bonded with 3 other Greenridge boys, Charlie Roth, Tommy Bell, and Larry Orr. They spent Saturdays, their free day, together. They could roam as far as Greenridge Corners, where they spent their pocket money on penny candy and caps for their cap pistols, or they could explore the always interesting city dump. A fascinating feature of Scranton for kids was the breakers, steep piles of dirt and rock left over from coal mining. The debris was heaped up in mountains larger than the pyramids of ancient Egypt. However, the breakers were not as solid as those pyramids, and traces of coal left in the rock easily caught fire, creating slow-burning furnaces under their slopes. One day, Joey and his friends were playing around a breaker built up by the Marvine Coal Company in Greenridge. Charlie bet Joey $5 that he didn't